Thank you, Dallas. You know, I was so thrilled with how many people went to the No Kings rally and how many people were there. And there was one sign in particular, which I did mention last week, but it really just kept reverberating for me. It shouldn't have to happen to you for it to matter to you. And there was something about that I just really kept sitting with. The other sign, which I thought was great too, was, make empathy great again. And there's a connection between those two pieces. And that's what I wanted to sort of dive into a little bit today. Because we are now becoming an epicenter for activity here in the Bay Area. Alameda, our very own Cindy Acker has been navigating that, having to do early dismissals at her schools in Alameda because the environment doesn't feel safe, right? The environment, it doesn't feel safe. And there's all kinds of things, I don't know about you, but all kinds of things get lit up within me, right? And it got me thinking about the mirror. The mirror, as I'm watching something over there, but it's actually really happening right here. But I don't know about you, some of this just makes me very uncomfortable. And there's a part of me that wants to fall into the powerlessness, that wants to let the fear and the despair and the sort of take over, the sense that, there's nothing that can be done. And I want to invite us to not pretend that we're not feeling that, right? Not pretend that isn't perhaps one of the pieces that's alive within us. But our invitation is always to sort of move beyond the reactivity that we might be experiencing. And this is true not even just for this global collective that we're in the middle of, but in our personal life. There are people in our world right now in our orbit, right, in our close personal experience that are going through some really hard things. And what happens within us as we are looking at that mirror? And the reactivity that can arise within us is an invitation to just acknowledge whatever those fears are. Right? That could so easily be me. Or that would never be me in a million years. Can you feel the two polarities of that? And the defensiveness that we might feel is about illuminating the places within ourselves, but also the places within the world that are in need of healing. That the discomfort, anybody in here feeling a lot of discomfort right now? That discomfort is actually pointing us towards growth. It's actually pointing us towards some sort of transformational tipping point. That's what we need to anchor for everyone. That we are on a path of transformation. We are not on a path of contraction and retro, right? That even though it feels like the same thing might be coming around again, anybody feel like that? Now that happens in our personal life too. How many people have experienced that? I thought I healed that, and there it is. This is how we grow. So what if we began to actually embrace the process? What if we used our fear and our reactivity and our discomfort as our compass? As the piece that's actually guiding us to move forward. Because, we do wake up when it touches our lives, right? We can't help it. We're sort of being dragged. But the invitation for all of us, I think, is to wake up even when it's not personal. When it's not personal, we have to wake up in the exact same way. Because even if we're thinking that injustice or pain or loss or grief isn't actually touching us right now, it's all part of our collective humanity. We are not separate from it. And it doesn't matter if there's an ocean between us. It doesn't matter. Geography is not part of what we're talking about because the personal is the collective. And we're all being invited to really move away from, oh, this could be me. And don't get me wrong, that's an okay place to start. Like, oh, I have empathy because this could be me. But we really want to move into, that is already us. Can you feel the difference? It is already us. Everything we are experiencing in this world is already us. It's not coming to us. We already are it because there is no separation. So one of the pieces that I think can help us tease this out is just being conscious of the small story and the greater story. And it's really easy to get caught up in the small story. And the small story is really about self-protection, right? How does this affect me? How is this going to impact me? And a lot of the movements in our country for justice and equality are arising from people saying, oh, wow, this really affects me in a way that I don't want it to affect me, and I become an agent for change. But there's a greater story, which is how does this affect us? How does this affect all of us? And that smaller story, it's not a bad thing. It's just unfinished. Can you feel that? It's like it's the starting point of entry for something. And what we want to be able to do is, because when we're focused on how is this impacting me, how is this impacting me, how is this impacting my family, my community, can you feel how built into that is separation? Built into that is that there is something else happening over there. And honestly, I say this all the time, like separation, it's the root of injustice. Separation is the root of sorrow. The root of our suffering arises from separation. When we're not aware that there is this interconnectedness of oneness that Dallas sang to so beautifully. That is the truth of who we are. And I don't know about you, but it's hard right now. It's hard to hold that oneness when you're seeing people who are saying things and doing things that feel as if they directly threaten my sense of safety, my loved one's sense of safety. So this greater story isn't like fairy tale butterflies and bunnies, right? This greater story is about joy and sorrow. The greater story is about bringing our empathy, make empathy great again. It's about bringing our empathy not just to those who are right in our tight circle, but understanding we are being invited to bring empathy to everyone. My prayer practice has evolved. And do you know where a big chunk of my prayer practice is spent on? I am holding in prayer ice. I am holding in prayer all of our leadership. I am knowing the truth of who they are. And I am holding that divinity that they are has space to grow and emerge and transform. Because if I stand here making them my enemy, there is no change. I need to bring my compassion, my empathy. No, can you feel the truth of this? There are no, but it does ask us to do something, right? It invites us that we have to hold the world's pain. And is there a lot of world pain? We have to hold it without turning away. We have to move from love rather than from fear. And there is, how do we navigate that discomfort? Because I don't know about you, but it's certainly easier to just sort of look away and say, it's not happening right here. It's not in my immediate sphere. And that impulse, that instinct is to just protect ourselves. We turtle. How many people in here have felt like they're like the battle between turtling and not turtling, right? Right? That dance that we do within ourselves. Oh, the laughter of recognition. So the piece that we just want to keep remembering is that awareness of where we are is the seed of everything. And that requires that we just be honest with ourselves. I was looking at a quote this morning from Nelson Mandela, and it was something along the lines of, I have to be honest with myself and be willing to change before I can expect it from anyone else. I have to be willing to be different in order for something new to arise. So true compassion, I'm really talking about true compassion. I'm not talking about pity, right? I'm talking about true compassion. Means choosing to care even when we could turn away, right? It means letting our hearts break again and again and again. Anybody with me in here with our hearts breaking over and over and over again? And it requires that we cultivate our capacity to anchor truth in the midst of any circumstance. Because when we forget that last piece, that's when someone becomes our enemy. When we forget that they too are on this journey with us, that we are all in this together. This quote from Martin Luther King really spoke to me because it's hard, I don't know about you, I'm speak for myself, when I feel as if what is being directed at me is hate and anger. It's really hard to not want to just meet it. And I really do remind myself of this. Returning hate for hate multiplies hate, adding deeper darkness to a night already devoid of stars. Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. So if we feel as if we're being met with hate, what that means is that we are being invited to become a larger container of love. It's work. It's work. We are shifting consciousness on this planet. It's work, right? But it's good work. It's holy work, right? It is sacred work. And we need to be conscious of the fact that it's not just me that I'm doing this for, but I am doing it for everyone, even the people who I think are the most horrible human beings on the face of the earth. Because they're not. They're not. Can you imagine the pain that somebody must be feeling to walk around with the amount of anger and hate that is in our world right now? That is painful to live in that. Can we be compassionate? Not that we cave to it, not that we're like, oh, you poor thing, that's okay, you just keep doing you. But we can have compassion for where all of that is arising from. Because nobody's right here. We're all in this together, creating a transformation of consciousness. And it requires all of us. It's not just part of us that can do this, because there is no part of us. So I'm inviting you to choose the greater story. To let your discomfort serve as the doorway to a greater awareness, and to move past your anger and fear to a place of true compassion for all. And that doesn't mean that we also can't stand in our values. So in everyone's bulletin program, look at my theater background. You got a program, everybody. In your bulletin, it's the same difference, right? There is what's called the red card. Okay, and it is just carry it with you. It's a short, succinct way for you to understand what your rights are in the midst of what's happening right now, and a guide for you to be able to anchor love from a place of clarity and not reactivity. right? Because when we know what is ours, our rights in this country, then that gives us the ability to speak calmly, to be the place of peace in the midst of whatever is arising. So if you don't have one, you can get them in the lobby as you're leaving. We'll have them around. If you're watching online, you want us to send you one by email, we can send you what's on the text. The big one is the second one, which just says, so this is if anyone is knocking on your door, and it also does apply in workplaces as well. I do not give you permission to enter my home based on my Fourth Amendment rights under the United States Constitution unless you have a warrant to enter, signed by a judge or magistrate with my name on it, that you slide under the door. Succinct and to the point. I'm taping this to our door, right? And I want everyone to pay attention to the fact that it's a judicial warrant. Judicial warrant. So there are other kinds of warrants floating around out there. The only reason why you have to open the door of your home is if it's a judicial warrant signed by a judge. So you want to look at those things and just don't open the door. Right? Don't open the door. We're all being invited to, it doesn't matter whether they're quote unquote coming for you personally. Do you understand what I'm trying to communicate here? This is part of collective consciousness, that we're all standing in this, that we're standing in the rights that people have for this, regardless of our immigration status, regardless of all of that. That's almost irrelevant. This is about educating all of us so that we can stand in that place of consciousness, but not from a place of reactivity, from a place of clarity about what it is that we value and what it is that we know is important. Does this make sense to everyone? So even though you may personally not be worried that ICE is going to come knocking on your door, or federal agents are going to come knocking at your door, or, right? This is still something we want held in consciousness for everyone to be able to know this. Because there's only one mind, one heart, one breath. And for me, this also just stands as an opportunity to be like, right, I'm not giving in to my fear. Right, I'm not giving in to my anger. I can acknowledge it, and I'm going to choose something else. And that's what I want to invite all of you into, compassionate action. Action rooted in the truth of who we all are. Action that, yes, requires us to be courageous. Action that asks us to be curious. If all we do is talk to each other, we are not changing the world. Can you feel the truth of that? We have to have those challenging conversations. One of my dearest friends, my prayer partner forever, he is not necessarily aligned in the same way politically as I would align myself. We have the most incredible conversations. They really are fabulous. It's like he's not dismissing me. I'm not dismissing him. It's okay that we have different perspectives. But there are places where we can meet. There are places where we can connect. There are places where we can align. He is impacting me, and I am impacting him, and that is how we shift consciousness. Standing in an echo chamber is not going to do it. So yes, we have to be courageous. We have to have curiosity. And most importantly, we need to continually bring compassion online. So let's take all of this into our time of meditation. Because there's a lot stirring in the world right now, isn't there? And I don't know about you, in my own heart. The image that's coming to me right now is just this incredible tapestry. I'm looking out the window here, and the American flag is sort of waving in the breeze. It's like a commercial that I can see right out that window. And there's a tapestry that creates these beautiful ideals that we have never fully manifested. But it requires all of us to bring compassion to the table. We get to stand in our values. We get to stand in what we know to be true. And we are all being invited to grow. How do we hold oneness in our personal life? Who is it in your immediate sphere that somehow feels challenging, threatening, frustrating? And just paying attention to the reactivity and knowing we are all being invited to heal. And thinking about our larger political arena. Make empathy great again. It begins right here. In a world that is changing so quickly, what if we brought compassionate action to everyone? And that requires that we rest in the truth. The truth of who we know we are, the truth of who we know everyone is. That is how we keep our faith anchored. Not from reactivity, but from love. Love and more love. So let's just take a moment and rest here together. And just the invitation is to just be love and share and expand and hold that love for everyone, even the people you think don't deserve it, quote unquote. Bring them in. Because there are no obstacles to the power of love. Let's rest for a few minutes in the silence. How good it is, truly, to widen our lens. How good it is to rest in the power of love, to rest in our power of mastery, so that we can acknowledge our fears and our concerns and our worries, and we can bring all of that anchored in the righteousness of love, in the rightness of love. The arc of justice is infinitely expressing. And that arc is supported through our anchoring love, compassion, and courage. Courage to know that even in the midst of whatever kind of emotional onslaught is being directed, whatever kind of physical onslaught is being directed. We are that powerful. We have seen the power of love in the civil rights movement, in the gay rights movement, in South Africa. All over this world, love is the transformative power. How good it is to just be willing to be changed at core, willing to show up in new and more courageous ways, willing to let go of our ideas of good or bad or right or wrong and just welcome in the infinite power that is oneness. And gratitude for this and so much more. I do give thanks, just such deep gratitude. And I invite you into this place of affirming who we truly are by saying, and so it is. So it is. Amen. Ashe. So I have an affirmation. I awaken from my small story and remember the greater story of oneness. I choose to be a presence of compassion in the world. Can we please know this together? I awaken from my small story and remember the greater story of oneness. I choose to be a presence of compassion in the world. And so it is.